having to get you, Barbara.
12 proudly displays the television seal of good practice as a subscriber.
Our national anthem. Incredible as they seem, are not the results of mass hysteria. The first eyewitness accounts of this grisly development came from people who were understandably frightened and almost incoherent. Officials and newsmen first discounted this eyewitness description as being beyond belief. However,
This is Rockstone TV.
Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, but we are in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution, which accelerates global change. Global energy systems, food systems, and supply chains will be deeply affected. It means investing into a greener and therefore more sustainable economy. Climate change can lead to an extinction of large parts of our global population.
How about you eating the bugs?
Insects may be on our menu.
Bugs for dinner?
Eating insects?
In a couple of years, business could well be hopping.
Do the people in charge really want us to eat bugs?
Ancient elites were
conspiracy people. They invent anything you can think of, but no, it's complete nonsense.
The company is called Insect. This is an insect protein just been approved by the EU.
Klaus Schwab said, "We have infiltrated the governments of the Netherlands." And he's
quite open about it.
He's open about it, so no conspiracy theory whatsoever.
Nobody forces people to eat insects.
Voor miljoenen mensen ter wereld voor de dagelijkse voedselvoorziening. Onze overheid heeft zich gekeerd tegen haar eigen bevolking. En zo is het. En leven de vrijheid, dank u wel.
I'm Nicole Kidman, and I am going to eat a 4-course meal of bugs.
I will not eat the bug. I will not eat the bug.
Insects are emerging as a potential food source of the future.
They want you to eat bugs. The message couldn't be clearer.
Eat bugs.
How about you eating the bugs?
The morning shows, the late night shows.
And if you eat them, it increases sexual vigor.
It increases sexual vigor.
That's the message from the New York Times, the Washington Post, and every media outlet in between. If you care about the planet, if you want to fight the existential planetary emergency that is global warming, you'll give up your ribeye for a plate of mealworms. It's the least you can do.
I want McDonald's to sell the McCricket.
Everybody loves the idea of eating bugs.
Oh, the crunch!
It makes for great television.
You see that?
I need more.
Have you had your daily helping of cockroaches?
But the topic is creating quite a buzz.
Why are they telling you this all of a sudden? Where did this story come from? It's not organic. It didn't emerge naturally from a newsroom. It trickled down, as so many news stories do, from places like the United Nations and the World Economic Forum. It's part of a larger agenda. Nobody eats bugs voluntarily. They're filthy. People need to be persuaded to give up meat, and if necessary, forced.
We know what you're feeling. Repulsion, right?
I can't do it.
The internet understands this. You may have seen the phrase, "I will not eat bugs." It's become a meme online. Many believe that Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum is the globe's biggest bug pusher. Replacing beef with crickets appears to be the end stage of the Great Reset, the part where they take control even of the food you eat. That's what they're saying online. But is it true? Are people just being paranoid? Could there really be a plan to make us eat bugs? To find out, we decided to interview the bug man himself, the elderly German insect enthusiast Klaus Schwab. Unfortunately, Schwab could not talk to us. He was busy tending to his herds of praying mantises back on the bug farm. So we spoke instead to a man who looks just like him.
I am Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum.
Klaus is, hold on. Okay.
Comedian Jay Dyer. Dyer happened to be in Austin, Texas, gauging the appetite of his fellow Americans to eat the bugs.
Eat the bugs.
We are here to convince the riffraff to stop eating that which is killing Mother Earth and to eat the bug instead. Excuse me, ma'am, pardon me, what will it take to get you to eat the bug?
What is that?
I would like to convince you to change the diet of the American population. You there! You there! Halt! Eat the bug! Would you like to eat a bug?
A bug? No, I'm okay.
But the diet that you eat is destroying the earth.
What do you mean? How do you know what I eat?
Because you are obviously not well fed. We have found some of what the Americans call the gym bros. Gym bro is not known for the high IQ. Would you like to eat a bug?
Well, they're actually smart, high IQ people eat bugs. You've got it wrong, man.
Precisely. I want to beef you up.
To beef up, you eat bug?
Correct.
That's not true. What are those?
That is the roasted cricket.
Okay, I'll have a roasted cricket.
He's going to do it. Here only in Austin will the man eat the bug to beef up.
Yeah, they're good.
Nice. It's already beginning to work. This man is now it. He has it.
It's the bugs. It's the bugs now.
There you have it. The American is being psyoped, and he doesn't even know it, to accept the World Economic Forum's plans for the eating of the bug.
WEF? You're from the WEF?
I am Klaus Schwab.
Oh, now I get it.
Ambassador
okay,
for
now I get
future.
the whole scene. Now I get the bit. All right. No, I hate all that shit. Yeah. Yeah. They're coming for us. I want a steak. You guys have steaks?
Even the guys at the gym have heard of the World Economic Forum and the plan to make us eat the bugs. But what exactly is the agenda here? Professor Michael Rechtenwald has researched the question.
The World Economic Forum is an international NGO based in Geneva, Switzerland. There are numerous articles on their website that are advocating insect eating. But they definitely want a dramatic reduction in meat consumption because they do believe that cattle they say they believe that cattle are a major source of greenhouse gases.
There's even guys turned out of the university system coming out and saying that they can engineer humanity such that the population can become allergic to meat. Problem solved.
There's this thing called the Lone Star tick, where if it bites you, you will become allergic to meat. I can sort of describe the mechanism. So that's something that we can do through human engineering. We can kind of possibly address really big world problems.
So the eat the bugs conspiracy theory is a real conspiracy.
Insects are becoming a trend. The Western diet has to kind of shift and change.
Our food systems must be fundamentally changed, or there will be some kind of climate catastrophe. That we should replace 50% of our meat with bugs and lab-grown meat, that eating meat would be an occasional, quote, treat, that insects are the future.
And you will be happy and like it.
As the USDA found in a 2020 study, if the kinds of policies that the World Economic Forum, the UN, and the European Commission have in mind are implemented globally, reducing the nitrates in fertilizer and reducing the cattle, this has been estimated to lead to 185 million people facing famine. In places like Sri Lanka, the agricultural yield fell by 30 to 60%, and people were basically driven into hunger.
So, conspiracy query. Is there a group of unelected bureaucratic elites that are involved in a global campaign to minimize meat consumption and convince people not to eat meat and to eat bugs to save the world from climate change? I think we can answer in the affirmative, absolutely.
It turns out there's no single queen bee behind the bug agenda. What you're watching here is the hive mind at work. The idea itself comes from places like the World Economic Forum. Oligarchs like Bill Gates fund the implementation. And you're paying too through your tax dollars. Government agencies like DARPA at the Pentagon send cash to the burgeoning agri-insect industry. That includes grants to people like Dr. Aaron Dossey of All Things Bugs. That's an Oklahoma City-based company on the cutting edge of edible insect R&D. We sent Professor Rechtenwald to find out what's going on in his lab.
Now, this is a mealworm cereal, cricket snacks, and cricket pastas. And I'm actually working on a cricket-based cereal, a Cheerio-type cereal with cricket powder instead of mealworm powder. I think it's going to be really good. You definitely got to check these guys out. So yeah, we've created a lot of prototype food products, alternative meat Taco meat was one of the first things I made. Funny story. This was years ago when I first started this and could not tell the difference between it and a Taco Bell taco meat. So
that's scary.
Depends on the cooking and the seasoning. Well, but does it say more about the Taco Bell than it does the insect?
It's hard to say. It could be that Taco Bell is terrible. It could be that the insects are
really good. Yeah.
It's hard to say.
Dr. Dassi's research focuses on genetically bioengineering insects. He recently published the entire genome of the house cricket. That includes applications for improving breeding and nutrition and even vaccines.
Has George Soros offered to fund you guys?
Not yet. But capitalism, right? You take money where you can get it.
You receive funding from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and DARPA. How do we explain that if there's no global elite pushing this agenda?
Like myself, they care about the environment, food security, healthy biodiversity and things. So they've read about this. They've read some of the information from our research and others' research and want to support it.
Do you have any concerns that, you say this is sustainable and so forth, and green and environmentally safe, but what about the potential for a Frankenbug?
They said nothing to me about weaponizing insects. I even joked to them about it. They rejected my joke. So I think all of the motivations are quite positive. And of course, this is research.
Yes.
We were an R&D company for a long time, developing technologies, getting patents. We've developed a very solid foundation, and now I feel secure to go to investors. Did you look at who's investing in Insect? They have $500 million.
Right.
Iron Man is one of their investors.
Yeah.
The company is called Insect. This is Infras. This is a powder derived from the mealworm, just been approved by the EU.
It's true that Iron Man himself is getting involved. Robert Downey Jr.'s investment firm has pledged hundreds of millions to a French mealworm company called Insect. It's part of the World Economic Forum's so-called Global Innovators Community. Insect's team gave us a tour of their futuristic bug farming operation, which is in the midst of becoming much, much larger.
This is where we grow the insect. It's like Fear Factor. You have to put your hand in the, here. So this place is a 12 meters high building, and right now we are almost done. We are building the commercial scale factory based in Amiens. And in Amiens, it's 50 times bigger than here. So here is just a pilot, just to show that it's working well.
Insect already had the largest mealworm farm in the world. It produced thousands of tons of bugs a year to be used as animal feed and plant fertilizer. But now, people will eat them. Thanks to rule changes made by the European Food Safety Authority, mealworms will become meals in Europe. They'll be sold whole as snacks for people who want to eat them. The worms will be ground into powder, and they'll be used as an ingredient in burgers, pasta, breads, and protein bars. Market watchers estimate the edible insect industry will explode over the next few years.
So we are already in 3 countries, and our ambition is to go beyond these footprints, to expand, especially in North America, in the US. Our ambition is to have insect as a normal source of food. It's not going to be a surprise anymore. Anywhere from Paris to Australia, Japan, Brazil, and the US. You will be able to find anywhere in your supermarkets. But in the next few years, we expect it to grow progressively with the support of chefs, of nutritionists, etc., different ambassadors promoting the products.
You're not just getting me to eat dirt, are you?
No, man, I wouldn't play you, bro.
They're still alive.
Are you excited to have worms in your burger? Most people aren't, and that's the point of the propaganda.
Like nothing you've ever tasted. Like a hairy nut. Don't.
The celebrity endorsers, the not-so-subtle marketing push to children in elementary schools.
Mealworm.
You're gonna eat your bugs, and you're gonna be grateful.
Need a little water.
But are there potential downsides to changing the world's diet so abruptly? That's a question for science to answer. So we sent our colleague Dr. Mark Siegel, along with a couple of our producers, to meet the world's greatest bug chef.
Hey, my name is Chef Joseph Yoon, Edible Insect Ambassador, and we work to raise awareness and appreciation for sustainable forms of protein. How can we sustainably feed the growing population around the world? And it doesn't suggest that we want to get rid of anything. How do we add something to our diets and maybe look towards the past for solutions for the future? They're incredibly nutritious, they're sustainable, but most importantly, they can be prepared absolutely deliciously.
Where is he? Here? Okay. Where's the chef? Chef? Chef Yoon.
Hey.
Dr. Siegel. Nice to meet you.
How are you doing?
Really good to meet you.
Yeah.
These are all cooked, right? By the time they make it to my table, they're cooked.
Absolutely, 100%. We're gonna be turning it into a dish. Guacamole with black ants.
He's not wasting any time.
Yeah, I love your enthusiasm and yeah.
Literally see the full head.
Cricket mac and cheese, which gives it this like nutty flavor.
Now, if we don't finish it, it's only because of the carbs, not because of the insect.
Agreed.
So this is cricket curry.
Yeah, cricket curry. It has a little bit more of an earthiness to it.
I taste that.
Yeah, I taste that as well.
Very good.
They're expecting it to taste disgusting. In order for us to successfully change our behaviors, it's gonna have to taste good.
A toast to the chef.
A toast to the chef. Yes.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. Chaim. We're just trying to normalize it instead of sensationalizing it. So, okay, well, we got dessert for you guys.
Ooh, a little bug fell out.
Yeah, no, so there are whole bugs in this dish.
What is that called?
Maggot. Is that a maggot?
No, that's a mealworm. I'm not a bug pusher.
No, not at all.
Like well, you guys could potentially be the next wave of edible insect ambassadors and advocates. And you know, it's like I really appreciate the engagement, the opportunity, you know, for us to like, you know, debate.
Anyway, ready?
Yeah.
Chef Yoon, the number that we usually hear for insect eating in the planet is 2 billion.
2 billion.
2 billion people. But we've heard estimates in our interviews of it's more like 100 million. So what will happen if we suddenly expand this to almost the entire human race in terms of unexpected health risks?
Well, we're using the best practices that we know for food. So it's like food safety and handling practices. In an abundance of caution, we would say if you have a sensitivity towards arthropods like shellfish, then you may also have a sensitivity to edible insects because of the chitin, the protein that's found in these, that's shared in these animals.
But what about the guts? I mean, when we fillet a fish, we take out the guts, and that's where a lot of infections are. The parasites or the bacteria are in the gut.
Yeah. Insects have a much smaller gastrointestinal tract, and so it's very easy to purge them. And so a lot of the farms that I know, they purge the guts of the insects. And generally speaking, if we're to talk like on specifically farmed or harvested for human consumption, the risk of pathogens is safe. And so we're doing the best that we can right now with the limited resources that we have in this fledgling industry.
According to researchers, edible insects constitute a, quote, underestimated reservoir of human and animal parasites. One 2019 study looked at 300 household farms and pet stores. It found parasites harmful to human beings in 30% of them. The insects, it should be noted, were not intended for human consumption. There's a difference. But they're still bugs, the same bugs they'd like you to eat.
Don't you envision a future where there's a top-down approach where governments say you have to eat insects because that's all we can afford, that this becomes a superimposed solution?
No one is trying to force this on anybody. I'm not trying to get you to stop eating beef. Like, if you love eating beef, I want you to be able to continue enjoying that. I'm simply trying to add something to diversify your diet.
What you're saying, which is you get choice, the movement to introduce insects in a top-down level we've been seeing this in the Netherlands, we've been seeing it elsewhere, is also a political move to try to decrease the amount of meat people eat.
I'm not trying to politicize it.
Okay.
And I'm not trying to think of it in terms of these grand geopolitical goals of like, hey, somebody is trying to take this away from you and force this into you. Like, that's the furthest thing from the sort of matrix or the rubric that I'm thinking of.
The people we spoke to in the edible insect industry didn't seem like extremists. In fact, to a person, they came off as decent and well-meaning. We liked them. But they're not the ones setting the bigger agenda. To see what a future of bugs for dinner might actually look like, we traveled to the Netherlands in Western Europe.
Dutch authorities are literally shutting down small farms. Thousands of tractor-driving Dutch protesters came out this week to continue demonstrations against the government's radical plan to slash nitrogen oxide and ammonia emissions by 2030.
The Dutch farmers' protests have been going on for years now. They fear for their livelihoods, they're being robbed of their land, and they went out on the street in a almost un-Dutch fashion, you could say, like blocked distribution centers, they even blocked the airport, and it had consequences for our food supply, like immediately. I mean, you could see the supermarket shelves were empty after just a couple of hours. But then the state decided to crack down on them with police violence. And that was also something that I didn't expect to be seeing in a liberal democracy that we supposedly are. If you control the food, you control the people. So creating a crisis, creating potentially a famine, is a really, really good way to get full and total control over your population. And the farmers that we've been speaking to were telling us that that is a real possibility.
Mag ik hem meenemen?
Ja. Dat is trouwens een Eva.
That cow is, she has my name. That's Eva. I'm Eva Vlaardingerbroek. I am a political commentator. My family apparently has a long history of farmers, as do many Dutch people actually, because it's such a, I would say almost the backbone of our entire society, or our country is built on farming.
Insects are a replacement for meat. That's not always articulated, but it's always the point. The Netherlands is the largest exporter of meat in Europe. European leaders are working hard to change that. The government there is demanding a cut to nitrogen emissions of over 50% over the next 7 years. That will mean a third or more of all livestock will have to be eliminated. That's going to drive many farms completely out of business. Eva Vlaardingerbroek spoke to one.
Hello. So Jeroen van Manen, you're a dairy farmer here in Holland. So is it fair to say that the Dutch government is just using nitrogen as a pretext, really, to get rid of you guys?
Yes, it's for sure they created this whole problem, whether it's the use of chemicals, whether it's the use of antibiotics. Dutch agriculture is the highest standard all over the world, so it's totally insane.
Yeah, it's insane. It's not just insane, it's criminal, because the consequences of this will be that one of the most hardworking, lucrative, most successful sectors of our country will basically disappear. So how does it feel for you as a farmer? How do you see your future and how do other farmers see theirs?
Yes, that's the problem. We don't see a future, Or the consequences of their policy is that there's farmers bought out or quitting their business or whatever. There's farmers who are going outside, going to other countries. Yeah. Well, they always say, never bite the hand who feeds you, and that's what's happening now.
What we are very proud of now as the young generation is that we penetrate the cabinets.
Many farmers, as well as some Dutch politicians like Ibren van Haga, believe the government is using nitrogen emissions as a cover for a land grab. Their real intent is the Great Reset, a set of policies backed by Prime Minister Mark Rutte, who is a WEF member.
The World Economic Forum Food Innovation Hubs.
So what will the policies that these people that we just talked about, that they want to push, what will the consequences be for our tiny little country?
Well, first of all, why did they pick the Netherlands? Mark Rutte is one of the young global leaders of Klaus Schwab, which is fine for him, but it's not so good for us. And we are a pilot country. We are the front runner for the World Economic Forum. And yeah, Mark Rutte thinks it's a good thing. I think it's really bad. Our farmers are the best in the world, the highest production per hectare, the most efficient ones, the most animal-friendly ones, the most sustainable farmers we have. And instead of embracing this success, we are starving our farmers. Some of the farmers have even hanged themselves.
So where will these people stop?
In the end of the day, and it has been said, it's been all over the papers, they want the land of the farmers. And it's the same as Pol Pot and Stalin and all the other communist leaders have done. The first attack is always on the farmers, and it's because they produce the food, but also because they've got the land. They own the land. But we're feeding the rest of the world, and if we stop, like the government is proposing, if we stop producing the food, some people in Ethiopia, for instance, will die. So that's the consequence of this whole new ideology.
So if you consider that livestock now occupies about 80% of all agricultural land, and that the demand for meat will increase by another 70%, then of course everybody understands it's not possible.
Everyone involved understands that famines are likely coming. Professor Arnold van Heus of Wageningen University is the author of the Edible Insect Bible, the book that launched the big bug business. If there's such a thing as God in the bug-eating world, this is him.
25 years ago, I became interested in edible insects. I decided to have a sabbatical in Africa. And I thought, how could I have been so stupid not having known that people eat insects? People in Africa don't talk to white people about the eating of insects because they know we consider it a kind of, primitive habit or something. It is racist to condemn people who eat things differently than we do. And I think that's an important statement.
And what would you say to people that are fearful of, the World Economic Forum, that this is going to be, forced down people's throat, basically? What would you say to them?
Well, the only thing I can say about it, that I like it. That sounds very strange, but it means that it's serious now. In the beginning, people thought, well, it's far from my bed show. Yeah, it doesn't matter. If people eat insect, let them eat it. But now it becomes on the shelves of the supermarket. Yeah, the European Food Safety Authority is authorizing products. So it's becoming real now. So people get worried. So I like that because it means that people take it serious now.
Proponents of the government's nitrogen policies, like Professor Van Heus, argue that the transformation of our food system and diet away from meat and toward insects is necessary to feed our growing global population.
Of course, it's absolutely necessary. Everybody realizes it is necessary. But of course, to throw farmers off their land is, of course, not that easy. So that's why you get a lot of protests. But I think there is no other way. So it's the only way to go, but it will take some time.
It's all a fantasy. It's all the new religion. And it's a scary religion because, of course, once the people are scared, the people in power can do whatever they want. So we have to be fearful and scared for COVID, for nitrogen, for carbon dioxide, for Putin. We have to be scared for everything. And meanwhile, these people who are in power now, they do whatever they want.
We have to prepare for a more angry world.
It's a movement to bring the Western world, the Western civilization to its knees. It will come to the United States as well. There's no doubt about it.
So it's a global agenda that is pushing all of these things.
Well, not so much global. It's the result of decadence in the West. And this decadence has led to some sort of a craving for collectivism, for communism again. And these communists have gone underground and they're surfacing now. And we should fight them tooth and nail.
The food we eat and who controls it has become the center of a global struggle of the populations of various countries and the people who govern them. The Dutch farmers' protest led to the farmers' citizens movement getting a staggering 17 seats in the parliament. The ruling parties, meantime, suffered severe losses. Italy has recently banned lab-grown meat and insect protein. I will not eat the bugs was a meme. Now it's a movement.
Boeren, burgers, Nederlanders. Ons land is ontstaan uit het verzet tegen de tirannie. Strijden wij Nederlanders opnieuw tegen tirannie. Een overheid die andersdenkenden uitsluit en boeren van hun land haakt. En weet jullie hoe je dat het best doet, dames en heren? Ordinaire dieven. Want lieve mensen, als nu niet de tijd is om te vechten, wanneer dan wel? En daarom zullen wij ze bestrijden. Wij zeggen nee tegen de zoolrijssel. Wij zeggen nee tegen de uitverkoop van ons land. En wij zeggen nee tegen kuttenvier. Leven de Nederlandse boeren, leven onze bevolking en leven de vrijheid. Dank u wel.
What's up, guys? I'm here with my boy Sam from FTX.
Let's talk about what's going on with Sam Bankman-Fried in just the past 5 years, becoming a multi-billionaire.
He drives a Toyota Corolla to FTX's offices in the Bahamas. He lives with 10 roommates and a golden doodle.
And one of America's youngest billionaires.
They call him the JP Morgan of crypto.
You were called the JP Morgan of crypto.
It doesn't bother me too much.
I'm thrilled to be announcing partnering with FTX.
I'm in.
It's FTX. It's a safe and easy way to get into crypto.
I don't think so.
Well, the crash in Bitcoin continues.
It just happened very quickly.
You just need FTX.
The latest fallout from FTX.
Samuel Bankman-Fried, the former CEO of the now bankrupt FTX.
He's playing the game that he was taught to play. I am fascinated by scams.
Mr. Madoff.
As a criminal defense attorney,
Mr. CARLSON, would you raise your right hand?
I see a heck of a lot of them.
My concern, of course, is for the shareholders of Enron.
Bernard L. Madoff, the largest financial fraud in history.
No record keeping whatsoever.
Worse than Enron.
This might be the biggest scam of all time.
We're in a fortunate position where we are profitable.
Fuck me! Fuck me! Shit! What the fuck?
In November of 2022, the cryptocurrency exchange FTX collapsed. That collapse stunned financial markets. It caught regulators by utter surprise.
Wiped out. Total wipeout.
And Bankman-Fried has resigned his role.
Unbelievable.
Billions of dollars vanished instantly into the air.
And now the market. Oh! It went to zero!
The full consequences of FTX's collapse are still not known.
Anything you'd like to say?
1 month after its bankruptcy, CEO Sam Bankman-Fried, often called by his initials SBF, was indicted by the federal government.
Fox News alert, Sam Mini Madoff has finally been arrested.
The arrest of FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried in the Bahamas.
But the story is much bigger than that. Though Bankman-Fried wound up in handcuffs, The story isn't over. The rise and fall of FTX is itself a devastating indictment of our ruling class. It's an indictment of the journalists who made this fraud possible by shilling for Bankman-Fried over a period of years.
I'm all in. Are you?
The celebrities who wholeheartedly endorsed him in exchange for cash.
To buy, sell, and trade crypto safely.
It's an indictment of our society itself, which enables criminals to escape scrutiny if they repeat the right slogans. The regulators who ignored his crimes, or the politicians who profited from them. The FTX saga is the story of our time. A corrupt, decadent elite and an economic system that creates nothing. This is that story.
I'm Susan Lee. I'm a correspondent with Fox Business Network.
Susan Lee has been covering cryptocurrency for years.
Susan Lee on that story.
Susan Lee. Susan Lee.
I would call FTX kind of like the TD Ameritrade of crypto. Or Schwab, how about that? Let's use Charles Schwab of crypto. So it's a place where you can buy and sell Bitcoin, Ether, whatever cryptocurrency you like.
FTX is a cryptocurrency exchange. It's a place that you would go to buy and sell Bitcoin.
FTX was one of the largest crypto exchanges in the world. There was billions of dollars that were traded on that exchange, which users thought was legitimate.
You're arguably the most important person and company in crypto right now.
At its peak, the founder, Sam Bankman-Fried, was worth $26 billion. He has a pretty good background. He went to MIT, so he's pretty smart, and his parents were Stanford law professors.
Hi, my name is Sam, and this is my story.
He also came with this kind of scruffy kid that may not shower very much, that wears a lot of t-shirts and shorts, and he's just a guy who's sleeping on a beanbag and was this pure genius out of nowhere.
Sam Bankman-Fried was one of the richest men in the world, but he promoted a very humble image.
No, I do not.
Is there anything you do splurge on?
Reporters in the financial press tripped over themselves to write fawning, treacly profiles.
He lives with roommates, one of them a golden doodle named Gopher.
And joining me now is Sam Bankman-Fried, one of America's youngest billionaires.
I wanted to get rich not because I like money, but because I wanted to give that money to charity.
You were called the JP Morgan of crypto.
Yep.
Did that bother you or did not?
It doesn't bother me too much.
Bankman-Fried relentlessly promoted himself far beyond the financial world. At one point, umpires in Major League Baseball wore FTX logos on their shirts.
Is this about the new FTX arena? We're in.
The Miami Heat's arena was renamed the FTX Arena.
It's really cool.
Bankman-Fried associated with professional athletes and models and world leaders.
What's up, guys? I'm here with my boy Sam from FTX. We're at Crypto Bahamas Conference.
The hype may have peaked last spring at an event called Crypto Bahamas, a star-studded conference sponsored by FTX.
Tom Brady, Giselle, you had Tony Blair was there, you also had Bill Clinton.
I'm convinced that we got a lot of money, energy, and talent behind crypto.
Everybody, the who's who of crypto was in the Bahamas. It felt like an anointing of a new king, this $32 billion exchange, FTX.
We have excellent panelists, as you can see.
They even had a Super Bowl ad.
It's FTX. It's a safe and easy way to get into crypto.
I don't think so. And I'm never wrong about this stuff. Never.
The myth imploded on November 2nd. That's when CoinDesk, a blog that covers cryptocurrency markets, reported that Bankman-Fried's personal hedge fund called Alameda Research had taken on huge amounts of debt. The fund was extremely close to FTX. Bankman-Fried owned 90% of that company. Shockingly, Alameda was using FTX's own cryptocurrency, called FTT, as collateral.
So it all started with that CoinDesk report, questioning whether FTT, which is that FTX self-made token, and why it was being used for collateralized loans of billions of dollars.
A CoinDesk report revealed Alameda Research's balance sheet is full of FTX's native token, FTT.
So basically, I'm making up a token, saying the Susan token, and you can give me a mortgage for $5 billion because that's how much I'm telling you my token is worth.
4 days later, on November 6th, a rival exchange called Binance announced it was going to sell $533 million of FTT tokens. FTX's customers saw this and rushed to get out. They withdrew $5 billion of funds in a single day.
I call it the Twitter-driven Madoff scheme, where it was just played out on Twitter.
On November 7th, Bankman-Fried lies to his followers. He tweets, "A competitor is trying to go after us with false rumors. FTX is fine. Assets are fine. FTX has enough to cover all client holdings. We don't invest client assets even in treasuries. We've been processing all withdrawals and will continue to be. On November 8th, Binance, the rival, announces a non-binding agreement to bail out FTX. But the next day, Binance reverses course, tweeting, "As a result of corporate due diligence, we have decided that we will not pursue the potential acquisition of FTX."
It just happened very quickly. The evaporation, I think the lie was exposed very quickly.
Over the course of the next few days, cryptocurrency prices across the board collapsed. Share prices of publicly listed exchanges started tanking.
The crash in Bitcoin continues this morning as the saga of crypto exchange FTX explodes.
On November 9th, Sequoia Capital announces that it is marking its investments in FTX down to zero, a total loss. On November 10th, Bahamian regulators announced they're freezing FTX's assets. Bankman-Fried tweeted, "I'm sorry, that's the biggest thing. I fucked up and should have done better."
He tweeted out an apology today that was the worst apology in history.
On November 11th, FTX filed for bankruptcy, and Bankman-Fried was forced to resign. The next day, the Wall Street Journal reports that Alameda Research's chief executive and senior FTX officials knew that FTX had lent its customers money to Alameda to help meet its liabilities. Alameda was run by Bankman-Fried's polyamorous girlfriend, who at one point admitted that her job didn't require a lot of math.
Yeah, absolutely could pull it off without my math degree. Use very little math. Use a lot of elementary school math.
On November 17th, John Ray, the CEO who liquidated Enron, writes in the FTX bankruptcy filings, quote, "Never in my career have I seen such a complete failure of corporate controls and such a complete absence of trustworthy financial information as occurred here. FTX was dead. Sam Bankman-Fried was exposed."
I'm David Sachs. I'm a partner at Craft Ventures. I'm a VC in Silicon Valley. I was the founding chief operating officer of PayPal. I went on to invest in companies like Facebook, Airbnb, Uber, Slack.
What went wrong at FTX?
Yeah, so SBF's explanation for what happened is that his hedge fund called Alameda had a trading account on FTX. And what he says is that FTX gave a margin loan to Alameda, and he was unaware of how big that margin loan got.
A margin loan is a risky form of loan that allows you to borrow against the value of securities you already own. In this case, Alameda was using FTX's in-house cryptocurrency as collateral in the loans. When crypto markets started falling in the spring of 2022, Alameda's bets soured.
You shouldn't be able to use your own token as collateral for a loan. The other problem was that as they start to lose more and more money, to the extent that that token was legitimate collateral, it should have been sold off. It should have been margin called. That never happened. Why did it not happen? Well, reportedly, according to the bankruptcy trustee, the auto liquidation provisions that apply to every other account on FTX were turned off for Alameda. So Alameda was selectively exempted from margin calls.
Bankman-Fried gave his personal hedge fund unlimited access to money deposited by FTX's customers. Consider what this would look like if a major bank did the same thing.
My name is Jamie Dimon.
Jamie Dimon's the CEO of JP Morgan. Imagine if you put your money in a JP Morgan account and you just thought you were depositing it there for safekeeping. Then all of a sudden you find out that that money is gone. And where it's gone is it was transferred to Jamie Dimon's personal hedge fund. And the only collateral that he gave was a token that he had made up. And as the loan got bigger and bigger, there was no margin call on that collateral. I mean, at a minimum, these transactions were hopelessly conflicted to the point where they should never have been allowed. And then the only question you have to ask is, well, was this a planned fraud or did it just kind of end up that way?
As we saw with the war in Iraq and the financial crisis and the rise of Donald Trump, the legacy media once again got everything wrong.
Any number of people I've spoken to who dealt with Bankman-Fried all describe him in very nice ways.
Everybody.
They say, oh, it was, accidental. Obviously, this
I
is
use
a
it on my
company
show a lot.
that
I
did
love
not
them.
He got the support of the mainstream media and they turned him into a much bigger figure than he otherwise would have been. I have yet to see one apology from the media who wrote all these puff pieces about SBF and are still excusing and apologizing away what he did.
If you want to say he's guilty before he's tried, I just don't understand it.
But it may end. You've seen the New York Times treat this story with kid gloves, almost writing a puff piece declaring flat out that SBF was not a criminal mastermind. But how do they know that? They can't say that definitively yet.
The promise of crypto remains.
The media is really willing to give SBF a pass, and you have to ask the question why.
On behalf of everybody here and on behalf of the public, I want to thank you for engaging in it at a time, in truth, when I know you've been advised not to. So thank you so very, very much. Thank you. Sam Bankman-Fried, everybody. Thank you.
Many media outlets actually took millions of dollars from SBF.
Sam Bankman-Fried personally funded the good press he got. He sent money to ProPublica, Vox, The Intercept, Semaphore, and various other left-wing journalism projects. And that money paid off in favorable coverage. Professional reporters did not bring Sam Bankman-Fried to justice. Amateurs on Twitter did that.
It's not the mainstream media who's exposing it. I mean, what's interesting is I've learned the most about what happened on Twitter and on YouTube. It's these online sleuths who are doing the heavy lifting here to reveal the story.
Amateurs on Twitter uncovered many details that the legacy financial media somehow missed, including Sam Bankman-Fried's personal drug use.
My name is Anna Lemke. I'm a psychiatrist and I'm a professor of psychiatry and addiction medicine at Stanford University School of Medicine.
One Twitter account, called Autism Capital, posted a picture of a wrapper for the prescription Parkinson's drug MSAM sitting on Sam Bankman-Fried's desk.
The MSAM is an antidepressant. It's FDA approved to treat major depressive disorder.
MSAM has many serious side effects, including compulsive gambling.
It's a more dangerous medication. It requires patients to be on a special diet. It includes the risk of mania, suicidality, serotonin syndrome, hypertensive crisis.
But it seems like when you read the stories, it sounds like a bunch of kids who were on Adderall having a sleepover party.
In 2021, Bankman-Fried's longtime girlfriend, who was CEO of his hedge fund, Alameda Holdings, tweeted, "Nothing like regular amphetamine use to make you appreciate how dumb a lot of normal, non-medicated human experience is."
When you're thinking about the active molecular structure, there's really not much difference between the methamphetamine that you might get on the street and the methamphetamine that a doctor might prescribe to you for ADHD.
Perhaps under the influence of drugs that increased his tolerance for risk, Bankman-Fried staked billions of dollars while spurning any traditional governance structure. According to one former employee, Bankman-Fried played the video game League of Legends while on a Zoom call with investors from Sequoia Capital. FTX approved expense reports with personalized emojis. The company had no board, no oversight of any kind. And to the extent there was bookkeeping, the company relied on QuickBooks software. A multi-billion-dollar exchange was being run by members of a drug-fueled sex cult. And yet somehow, despite numerous trips to the Bahamas to profile Sam Bankman-Fried, no one in the media ever noticed. How do you do that? Sam Bankman-Fried was allowed to play by a very different set of rules because he was a member of the ruling class. He bought influence with millions of dollars of stolen money. He donated massive sums to favored left-wing charities and Democratic politicians. He cultivated the image of a philanthropist and regurgitated the established liberal orthodoxies and dogmas while preaching a new moral gospel.
A single person can potentially save thousands of their lives.
He's playing the game that he was taught to play.
Because he believes in the concept of earn to give.
I'm Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm the founder and executive chairman of Strive Asset Management. I wrote a pair of books. One of them was Woke Inc., one of them was Nation of Victims.
Whose mission since founding was to make the greatest impact for good.
You pretend like you care about something other than profit and power, precisely to gain more of each. That is the cardinal rule of 21st century capitalism.
And ultimately, the scale of impact you can have on the world is just really, really large.
The funny part of this irony about the SBF story is that part of the reason that he got as far as he did was he was able to create this virtuous smokescreen that deflected everyone else's scrutiny.
And recently he's used that money to become one of the biggest donors in this year's midterm elections.
Donating tens of millions of dollars to Democratic candidates, donating to the good guys, nobody even bothering to ask how this guy had managed to generate that kind of liquidity.
To be clear, we have also given, I think, upwards of $100 million this year to
I'm not saying you're not charitable.
The lady doth protest too much, methinks. This is in Hamlet for a reason, right? It's as true as human history, it's the human nature.
There's actually an enormous amount of positive impact that we can potentially have on the world.
The guy who protests the case of virtue too much might be the guy that you actually want to question and then turn around and run the other way.
Bankman-Fried personally donated more than $40 million in the 2022 political cycle. 99.6% of his donations went to Democrats. He also became the face of responsible regulation of cryptocurrency.
I have a duty as a member of the industry to try and get us regulated, to try and move the industry in a more responsible direction.
He was the face of so-called responsible regulation of the cryptocurrency industry.
The things that I've been arguing for are more regulation.
When you see a guy who's calling for more regulation in his own industry, look him in the eye, turn around, run the other way, because they're likely going to use not just their own market power, but now their market power combined with political power to fleece you in the process.
At the core of Sam Bankman-Fried's supposed philosophy is something called effective altruism.
What is effective altruism? That's a great question. My name is Curtis Yarvin. I'm a retired software engineer and a blogger, and I write at graymirror.substack.com. That's Gray with an A, the American way.
Raise your hands if that thought occurred to you.
Effective altruism is a faddish social movement popular in ruling class circles. It was founded by an academic called Peter Singer, a moral monster who openly supports infanticide. Believers in effective altruism claim traditional Christian charity is ineffective, and that we need a new model of charity focused on maximizing the effect of giving, no matter what the human cost.
When you look at the argument for, just to, as we say, steelman the case for effective altruism, what you see is they're like, think about it, you could buy flowers for your grandmother, or you could save the lives of 0.1 children in Laos.
The fact is that you can impact way more people through, your philanthropy, through how you give back than, you do in your everyday life.
Obviously, you're doing a huge thing for some Laotian child, or you're doing this thing for your grandmother who, does she need the flowers? Is she gonna eat them? So you have this theory of altruism that basically involves this conclusion that you should never buy your grandmother flowers.
Effective altruists say they're trying to help the largest number of people, even if it means hurting the people closest to them. They believe in replacing natural feelings of loyalty to family and friends and countrymen with abstract cost-benefit analyses.
What measurable change do you hope that this money will make?
$1 spent in a third world country goes farther than one spent in your own neighborhood.
How much can you scale up impact?
Effective altruism is effectively a dark religious movement. Sam Bankman-Fried is one of its high priests.
None other than Charles Dickens writes about this stuff. In his novel Bleak House, invents a character named Mrs. Jellyby, who is an effective altruist. She has a large family, which she neglects in order to send money to, I believe it is Bula Bula in the Congo.
It's one thing if you want to get it in, a large U.S. city. It's another thing if you're thinking, how do we get it someone in the middle of Kenya?
That's the problem. It's impossible to know if your so-called altruism is helping anyone if you're focused on people who live thousands of miles away, or if you're focused on theoretical issues like climate change.
The short networks of concern are very hard to subvert or corrupt. You actually know if you're trying to help your cousin, but what you're doing is actually feeding his gambling habit. And when you take the equivalent of that and you spread it over a large number of people in Africa, it's very hard to know whether you're doing a good thing or a bad thing.
Sam Bankman-Fried's effective altruism was a sham. There was nothing altruistic about it. And he admitted as much in a private conversation to a reporter soon after the FTX collapse.
He didn't know that he was being interviewed. This reporter was someone he thought of as a friend. And the reporter asked him, was all of this emphasis you put on effective altruism basically part of the ruse that you were creating? And SBF says, yeah, he basically admits it, yes, yes. And what he says is, this is the dumb game that we woke Westerners have to play. We say the right shibboleth so everyone likes us.
That is what you call saying the quiet part out loud. He is articulating the golden rule of modern woke capitalism, is that you pretend to care about the woke virtue when in fact it is just a smokescreen.
After the bankruptcy, but before his arrest, Bankman-Fried tried to save his image by going on a publicity tour. He charmed his way into this mess. He thought he could charm his way out.
My name's Lou Gelomino.
Lou Gelomino is a criminal defense attorney.
I'm shocked. My colleagues and I are shocked that he was still out there giving interviews.
What are your lawyers telling you right now? Are they suggesting this is a good idea for you to be speaking?
No, they are very much not. And
the first thing we tell our clients in criminal law is, hey, no more talking. That's the first thing. That is rule one. I mean, we have a sign there with a fish with a big mouth that says, you know, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my big mouth. So we saw one interview with Good Morning America. We're shocked.
Here it says that the digital assets may not be loaned to FTX trading. They can't be loaned out.
There existed a borrow lending facility on FTX. And I think that's probably covered, I don't remember exactly where, but somewhere else in the terms of service.
That's him stopping, thinking about it, and saying to himself, my lawyers didn't talk about this or told me not to go here, so he wanted to slow down and really consider what he was saying. The only reason he's out there doing this is to set the narrative.
I ask myself a lot how I made a series of mistakes.
The narrative is, hey, I made a mistake. I didn't steal anything. I didn't defraud anybody. I made a mistake.
One of his strategies was to clutter his sentences with technocratic jargon so no one could really understand what he was saying.
Alameda did have a big position open on FTX. That position, I think, was very over collateralized a year ago. There was a total market collapse and specifically a large correlated collapse in its assets over the last month.
I am no cryptocurrency expert, I'm no finance expert, but I don't think you answered my question.
The technocratic jargon is itself part of the smokescreen too. I have a general rule of thumb. If you cannot explain it to a 14-year-old, that means either you don't understand it yourself, or you do understand it and you're trying to confuse the audience for a reason that has to do with your own self-interested gain.
Mr. Bankman-Fried has been able to confuse interviewers by talking in circles.
Nothing that SBF has said since the fraud was exposed has been coherent even to this sophisticated observer of financial markets. And I think that that's not just an accident. It is by design. It is another deflection tactic.
The Biden Justice Department took more than a month to charge Sam Bankman-Fried with 8 counts of fraud and conspiracy. But the nearly $10 billion he stole is gone. Apparently it was wasted on real estate for his family, drugs, effective altruism, and Democratic campaigns. The last remaining question is, who will make Sam Bankman-Fried's victims whole?
My name is Adam Moskowitz, and I'm a class action attorney.
Just days after FTX went bankrupt, Moskowitz filed a class action lawsuit to recover assets for people who'd invested in FTX.
We've been working 24 hours a day, all the time, talking to people, talking to experts, talking to victims around the globe.
One of his clients is a UK-based investor called Sunil Kavuri. He agreed to an interview.
How much did you lose with FTX?
2.1 million.
US?
Yeah.
The question for most of the investors is where are they going to get their money from? And it's not going to be from FTX, most likely, because the money's gone.
Moskowitz is using lawsuits from previous Ponzi schemes as a model for his lawsuit.
Madoff, there was no money there, so they sued every promoter, everybody who sold Madoff stock, every accountant, every bank, every entity, professional that had anything to do with it got sued. And you're going to see that with FTX.
He was having a lot of meetings, Sam Bankman-Fried, with all the regulators, all in Washington. He's getting photographs with, all these, talking about regulation is good for the industry. I feel kind of duped. It ended up being, like we all know now, it's a total fraud and a Ponzi scheme. It seemed like, safer than bank. I remember even transferring money from my bank account into FTX.
32 billionaires still agreed to go be brand ambassadors.
All these guys, Kevin O'Leary was banging on all the time how, he's gone to Bahamas, he's done rigorous due diligence on the compliance. I mean, this is like the opposite of compliance. It's like a fraud. It's like you can't get even further from compliance. I don't know. It's like, it's just shocking.
All of our clients respected Larry David, Tom Brady, Giselle, David Ortiz.
In 2018, the SEC charged rap artist DJ Khaled and boxer Floyd Mayweather with unlawfully touting coin offerings. They reached a settlement. In October of 2022, Kim Kardashian settled with the SEC after facing similar charges.
Are you confident that all those who vouched for him and that company, that fraud, will they be held accountable for this?
I hope so. I mean, it's like being raped. It's like you're helpless and people, so many people, it doesn't matter the amount. I hope they are held accountable.
The fact that what Sam did was a fraud is a slam dunk. There's no doubt in my mind, 100%, the guy will be put in jail.
Disclose, I'm a paid spokesperson to FTX and a shareholder there too, because we mentioned them, and big advocate for Sam because he has two parents that are compliance lawyers. If there's ever a place I could be that I'm not going to get in trouble, it's going to be at FTX.
Whoa, Moon, slow down. You getting into crypto? With FTX? Steph and Tom are in? Oh, I'm in, bro. Throw you after the game, bro.
Trade? Are you sure?
Not a trade. I'm trading crypto. FTX is the safest and easiest way to buy and sell crypto. It's the best way to get in the game.
You know what? This thing is bugging me. Can you help me with this? Turn it off.
Hey, it's Shaquille O'Neal, and I'm excited to be partnering with FTX to help make crypto accessible for everyone. I'm all in. Are you?
Proudly displays the television seal of good practice.
Ladies and gentlemen, make some noise for hip-hop history.
Rockstone TV. What you gonna tell the grandkids when they ask what you did to stop the riots? Don't be a slave to corrupt economic institutions. Break free, create your own kind of revolution. Every woman, every man, stand up for your existence. If you're receiving this transmission, you are the resistance. You are the resistance. You are the resistance. You are the resistance. This is Rockstone TV.